Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to each and every one of you. Each week, I have the pleasure of interviewing authors, speakers, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs. And today is no exception. It gives me great pleasure to warmly welcome Dr. Sanjay Arora. Welcome, Sanjay.
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you for having me here.
Dr. Sanjay Arora is the founder and MD of Suburban Diagnostics, a leading diagnostic center and pathology lab offering its services across Western India. A TEDx speaker, Dr. Arora has spoken at various conferences and events, sharing his entrepreneurial journey, experiences, and learnings. Dr. Arora is known to be a thought leader in the diagnostics and healthcare industry and has been coached in leadership by global guru Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. He's been honored with the 100 Most Impactful Healthcare Leaders Award by the World Health and Wellness Congress in 2018. On a personal note, he's a passionate global traveler, amateur chef, travel photographer, and DJ. Welcome, Dr. Sanjay.
Thank you again, Gautam. Thank you for those kind words and very, very warm welcome. So happy to be here and sharing my thoughts with you.
It's a real pleasure. I was just telling you that it's amazing to know that we've known each other for about a year now, never met personally, but really felt deeply connected and really grateful to regard you as a dear friend and in my life. Thank you so much.
Likewise, absolutely, Gautam. I think what the last year has taught us is, to value such opportunities. And I think the platform that you created for all of us to come on, just brought us so much closer. And technology is such an enabler today. So, we are truly grateful for this opportunity. And it doesn't really feel that, we haven't met. I think we know each other really well now. So thank you again for doing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Suburban Diagnostics, I believe, was founded in 1994. You have over 18 diagnostic centers in India, 12,000 touch points, 5,000 patients a day. I don't know, those are the latest statistics, but what I really want to know is what is your personal why to build an organization like this? And obviously something that's needed now more than ever. The last year and a half has really put your industry on the map. So would love to know your personal why and what inspires you each and every day to come to work.
That's a great question to start off with, Gautam. That I tell the same line to my team, that why do people choose to work in healthcare? It's a unique opportunity for us to work in healthcare because the impact that we can make on someone's life is equal to no other industry. The kind of value addition that we can make to someone's life is just remarkable. And I guess that's the real motivation for me or for my team that comes to work every day. We find an opportunity to create value, to make a difference in someone's life. And that's the real purpose. And I think healthcare or diagnostics, the impact that can make in someone's life. So for me, the simple question is, did I add value? Did I make a difference to someone's life today? And that's the question I tell my team to ask every day. Did I add value? Did I make a difference to someone's life today?
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Sanjay. The last year and a half, we know things have happened beyond our wildest imaginations with COVID-19 and this pandemic. How have you evolved as a leader in this pandemic?
So I guess, when things are going well, as a leader, you step back and you let your team sort of, gain the attention in the limelight. But when things are tough or when they're uncertain, you step forward and you sort of take the lead. And that's exactly what happened last year in March when this whole pandemic broke down and, or broke out, and we were not really knowing what to expect. So not only me, but all the senior leadership team in the organization actually stepped forward and, was working shoulder to shoulder with the team because there was so much of fear and so much of uncertainty. And I guess the first opportunity as the leader was to actually calm the nerves, is to, tell people that we are there with you and we are making sure that things are in control. So being with the team, because fear is, it's a normal emotion for everyone to have in such a situation. So I think the the lesson that we got as leadership was to, how do you work with the team to make sure that, uh, you know, calm their nerves and to, make sure that they don't have the fear and to take care of all their fears. Then I think the biggest learning that we got is, how do we connect people to a sense of purpose? And the day the pandemic broke out, and the day we got the chance to be the first lab in the country to be uh, qualified for testing for COVID, more than 90% of our team sort of put their hand up and said, we want to contribute. And I think just that sense of inclusiveness that we made available to the team, of all hands on deck, making people feel part of the team, connecting them to a sense of purpose, uh, and making sure that the team knows that we have their back no matter what, that we have them protected, we have the right support for them. And I think that's what really allowed us to be a leading lab across the country in the last 15, 16 months. uh, some of these, and of course agility. I think agility in thinking was a big evolution that we had, that sometimes decisions taken during the day, in the morning, were changed in the evening. So we just had to be so agile in our thinking, uh, and that again comes from building this sense of inclusive leadership, that we don't know everything. And I think it's great to have all hands on deck, and to have agility in thinking, have that sense of inclusive leadership. So these were some of the uh, you know qualities that we learned over the last 12 to 15 months.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing, Dr. Sanjay. I heard lots of interesting points there. One is the awareness that what was the feeling on from your team is this initial stages of the uncertainty causes fear, causes panic. And so first
Right.
and foremost was, what are they fearing? Possibly job loss, or possibly the health and well-being of their families. The uncertainty causes that. And you put their mind at ease by giving them the assurance, communicating regularly, transparently. So once that was established, you said, okay, now that that fear is subsided, then now how do I drive them to the higher purpose? In fact, you are one of the organizations that are already at the front, in the front line in that sense, because
Absolutely.
anyone and everyone in the healthcare industry was absolutely, the pillar of strength that we all needed during these tough times. Prevention better than cure. And to me, the first step was to get those tests done and
Right.
to know where we stand. So really appreciate that. And one other point I really appreciate you and acknowledge is you mentioned that agility. We realize there's no thing of planning for the whole year. You have to literally take it one day at a time, 1 week at a
One
time.
day. Absolutely.
And each week, each month, you had to be nimble on your feet and be willing to adjust and make those adjustments. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much. I mean, on a different kind of note, but in the same space, but what opportunities and learning has work from home presented? Because, every industry needs some kind of face-to-face interaction. Your industry is no exception. But what opportunities and what learnings would you say, as you reflect back in the last year and a half, what has W work from home presented to you?
Right. So I guess I'll answer that in two ways, Gautam. That for the healthcare industry overall, this concept of work from home did not exist, because while everyone was working from home, we had to be at the front end. We were the COVID warriors, not just us, but all healthcare workers. So I think, as you said, acknowledging the healthcare industry, is the right way. And I think all healthcare workers globally were the only industry where work from home or other essential services as well. So this concept of work from home really did not apply to us, because we had to have, in fact, we had to take on board extra number of people, because we were not able to manage with the demand. So we gave an opportunity to hire more people. We could pull people from some other locations where there was uh, not enough opportunities, and we could give people employment within us. So we actually gave an opportunity to people to put all hands on deck. However, some of the corporate functions that did not need to be on ground, I think, definitely benefited from this work from home. And I think technology was a huge enabler. And today we realize that the need to travel, or the need to come together as a group, perhaps is no longer as important, because you can just come together as a group on a virtual platform like this or any other virtual platform. And I think collaboration across technology was perhaps the biggest learning opportunity for us. So I think today we will move into a hybrid situation where some of our corporate functions, would have maybe sometimes coming to office, but sometimes working from home. And I think not just for us, but for all the other industries, where they have this opportunity of working remotely. I would not say work from home, but maybe working remotely. And that's going to be, I guess, the new change going forward. But for us as healthcare workers, I would say 90% of our team has no work from home opportunity. We have to actually be on ground. So maybe it doesn't apply to us as much.
I appreciate that, and my deepest gratitude to you, your organization, and every single member of your team and their respective families, because I can only imagine the kind of sacrifices the families of the employees and team members working for healthcare organizations like yourself must have had to made during this very, very difficult time. So my
That's
heartfelt
a great point. Absolutely. I'm just adding to that. Sorry to interrupt that thought, but I think that you made such an interesting point, Gautam, that we are truly indebted to the families, and most of our team members are youngsters, in their 20s, most of them. And so, I mean, to allow their family members to actually be part of taking such tough decisions, so a great amount of gratitude goes to the families, as you said, for allowing their family members to be in the front line, to be part of making a difference. So yeah, big thank you to the families. Completely agree with you on that.
Great, great. No, in fact, if I look back and several conversations I've had with CEOs and HR leaders, I think, one thing is the team members' families has been omnipresent in everyone's minds of every organization beyond any time before COVID. Before COVID,
True.
those were distinct different. There was a fine line, but there was a distinct line between, your professional life and your personal life. And one thing that COVID has brought, when a lot of organizations are working from home, or even if they're in the front line in your organization, their families have been the backbone and the support system. Without them, we wouldn't be able to
Truly.
do anything. So I really want to
Absolutely.
acknowledge that once again.
Yes.
Great. You mentioned earlier in the conversation that communication was absolutely a key part of keeping your team informed. Would there be anything else that you'd like to share? And how have you kept your team highly engaged, during these last 18 months? Because they must be running emotions, extreme highs and lows. You've obviously got, travel pressures. When people want to travel, they need the vaccines, people asking for 24-hour service. There's so many changes that have gone on. And I guess, as you
Yes.
said, you've evolved every day, every week. But how have you kept your team engaged? Because it's been constant change, disruption, all for a good cause. But at the end
Right.
of the day, it is, quite challenging. How have you kept your team engaged during this difficult time?
Sure. So, like I mentioned, that majority of our team was on ground. And so the first thing that we did is we created an internal COVID task force, a group of doctors or professionals to whom our team members and their family members could reach out to. So if any of them had any symptoms, if their family members had anything, uh, any other concern, we ensured that they had an opportunity to reach out to this COVID task force. That perhaps was a big, uh, you know, saving grace for the team, that they knew that, there is somebody that they can bounce ideas with. If they have any concerns, they can reach out to this COVID task force. And that was a big help to the team right throughout, continues to be. The second was, I think, as you spoke earlier about over communication. So I think we used an opportunity to, we have a webinar platform which we used repeatedly to communicate. I still remember when uh, our senior leadership team member tested COVID positive, and there was a lot of apprehension within the team. I think we took that opportunity. In fact, our COO spoke from his hospital room that,
Wow.
don't worry, I'm fine. And so again, so we use technology again to over communicate with people. And I think when he spoke from his hospital room that, he's just taking precautions, but he's all right, it sort of, eased the apprehension. Even when the first team member tested positive before that, again, communicating and saying that we are with you, we have the task force that is there to support you. So I think creating the right kind of support and over communication sometimes really was helpful in, taking away the fear from the team. But personally, what I did in the first 6 months of the lockdown was maybe once every, quarter or once every 3 weeks, I would arrange a online, breakout session. Maybe have an online music performer sing, have some sort of a quiz with our team, some sort of a game activity. I remember on one occasion when we sent out small gift hampers to our team members, and all of us came on the Zoom call, and then we had a drink together virtually. So finding ways to build that bond with your team. And last but not the least, I think, Gautam, is that ensuring that we kept our channels open for them to reach out to us. I think that was the most important thing, that they all knew that right from me down to anyone else, the leadership team was accessible to the entire organization and they could reach out to us for any help. So I think these few things have really worked in our favor, and the team has done a phenomenal job as well over the last 12 to 18 months.
Fantastic, fantastic. Really, it gave our teams respectively an opportunity to step up, in this time.
Yes.
And I really acknowledge and appreciate communication has been at the core center of your sort of functionality during these 18 months. And one would definitely rather over communicate openly, authentically, transparently, because it
Right.
just prevents anyone overthinking of the unknown. Once you communicate, 50% of the concern and the anxiety is diminished. So I really
Absolutely.
acknowledge that. And on a lighter note, at the same time, whilst we know at the end that we are human beings and we need to also disconnect and have some me time. So I'm glad you sort of created that environment to sort of, whether it is music, whether it is a sharing, some kind of activity, just to bring down, bring in positive emotions as well during these very challenging times.
Absolutely.
So that's
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
Great. We have a question from the audience, and I'd just like to take that on impromptu from Prashant Menon. How do you see remote diagnostic testing evolving? Which areas will this impact for the layman? Any insights you'd like to answer to that question?
Sure. No, thank you, Mr. Menon, for sharing this question. Uh, there is a concept called point of care testing, or POCT. And I would say over the next 10 years, about 25% of diagnostic testing will become point of care. And what I mean point of care is something like the glucometer we have today, where you can prick your finger and you can get a blood glucose level. That's point of care testing. Uh, a digital blood pressure instrument is point of care testing. The biggest point of care testing that everyone is familiar with now is your pulse oximeter. So it tells you your pulse and your oxygen saturation. I guess everyone knows, the importance of that. So I think point of care testing over the next 10 years, over this decade, will, I would say, occupy about 25% of overall diagnostic testing. And I guess basic parameters like this would be much easily available. So if you're a diabetic and you have something called as continuous glucose monitoring, you just put in a patch for the next 15 days that will just read and give analysis of your glucose levels throughout the day and night. So, I think we are moving in the right direction. You might even have contact lenses that can measure the glucose in your tears and which can correct to what is your blood glucose level. So there's a lot of technology which is being, a lot of development, a lot of research toward point of care testing. And I feel, 25% will move to point of care over the next 10 years.
Fantastic, fantastic. I think technology is omnipresent in our lives, and it's definitely going to
Absolutely.
help us in terms of diagnosing things early, prevention better than cure, self-testing. So thanks for that question, Mr. Menon. Just want to also take a moment to acknowledge some of the comments coming in. All the best, Dr. Sanjay and Gautam from Bharat. Good evening from Tokyo, two great guys. That must be our dear mutual friend, Paul Dupuy.
Yes.
And then we have Shivani. This is going to be a great, insightful session. We have greetings from Dubai, Dr. Indu. And again, Deepak Patel. Congratulations, Gautam, for inviting Dr. Arora to share his wealth of experience and how he has built up his organization. Fantastic. Thank you for those comments and questions. Feel free to share any additional questions. We'll try our best to include them before we close the conversation we have today. So the next question is, what is next for your industry, Dr. Sanjay? I mean, what do we have to look forward to in the coming years from your experience?
So I've been in the diagnostics industry for close to 30 years now, and never have we seen the kind of interest on diagnostics as we have seen over the last 15 months. And the five most common alphabets today across the planet are RT-PCR. So everyone knows what an RT-PCR test is. Everyone knows what an antigen test is, what an antibody test is. Everyone knows tests like CRP and D-dimer and IL-6. Unfortunately, it was COVID that made that happen. But I guess the importance of testing was amplified during the COVID pandemic. And I think diagnostics has finally been given its just rewards. So I'm really proud to be part of the diagnostics industry. And I see that technology has democratized healthcare. And I think healthcare consumption will change over the next 10 years, where diagnostics will play a pivotal role in this paradigm shift. And I think a lot more people today will focus, especially in India, on wellness rather than illness. Uh, you know, 90% of our population is well, and 10% of our population is ill. But majority of the consumers of healthcare are ill patients. Now, I think we will see a lot of well people because they understand the meaning of comorbidity. What does that mean? In terms of high blood pressure or diabetes, or being overweight, or things like that. So people understand the importance of good health. So I guess proactive wellness will see a lot more consumption. As you said, we'll use technology to diagnose early, diagnose better, diagnose faster, so we can manage more in the OPD, and less need, burden on the hospitals. Why we had a challenge in the second wave is because we were just overburdened. The hospital infrastructure was just overburdened. So what can we as a diagnostic industry do to pick up diseases earlier at a stage where they can be either prevented or cured, so that only those severe cases need to go to the hospital without them overburdening the hospital infrastructure. So I think just the way in which people will choose healthcare more proactively, the democratization, people used to choose healthcare largely based on word of mouth. But with the transparency in the industry today, I think people will be able to objectively, see what's good for them, take up the right healthcare opportunities for the right reasons proactively. So overall, I think the diagnostics industry and healthcare will see a paradigm shift. We'll see democratization. We'll see movement towards wellness, and more towards proactive. Looking after yourself more proactively. So I think these are some of the changes that I expect to see over the next few years.
Thank you so much for your summation, Dr. Sanjay. I mean, one thing that really stands out, and I can say from my personal experience, is I didn't even know half the terms that I know today. So the level of awareness that, as you mentioned, the level of awareness by the layman, by the everyday person on, on the terms that I use, also the awareness of the importance of our health and well-being, things like immunity, all these parts of
Absolutely.
what you eat, what you drink, what your exercise is. It's something we've always known, but it's never necessarily been a priority and been omnipresent in everyone's mind across the globe. So I think that's definitely there, and that will, all being well, help us in the future. We have to get to be an industry which creates healthier patients, and obviously prevention better than cure, as you said.
Absolutely. Awareness is the biggest takeaway, I think. Absolutely.
Great. Earlier on, we obviously did connect thanks to our dear friend Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, and you had the pleasure of being coached by him for 6 months last year, and that was sort of
Yes.
in the middle of the first wave of the pandemic last year, where you took the bold decision to sort of say, "I am going to be coached by the number one leadership coach and thinker, Marshall Goldsmith." What led you to that decision? And as you look back, what has your experience been? Here we are a year later exactly from when you started that journey.
So, Gautam, I think first of all, I want to appreciate the role you have played in people like myself or Paul or others who came onto that platform to be coached by the peerless Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. So, thank you for giving us that opportunity. Um, my the way I've structured the organization today, I've got, my role has been divided among two very competent people. So if I have to keep adding value, I have to keep becoming a better version of myself. And I think that was my single-minded approach, that how can I become a better version of myself when I have a very strong professional team? What do I do? How do I take my game up to the next level so I can continue to add value to people? And I thought no better person than Dr. Marshall Goldsmith to be able to take my thinking to the next level. And the number of take home messages that I've received from him, that I continue to practice with my team, with my colleagues, with, even other professional groups. Uh, just amazing. In fact, his biggest learning on the 6 daily questions, I use that with my family, with my immediate team members, and it's been a great engagement tool again, for me to engage with people. So there are so many lessons that I've learned from him, which I'm able to now use to add value to my team. So I think the basic purpose was to take my thinking to the next level so that I continue to add value to a very strong professional team that I have. Because if I have got good people under me, I need to raise my level as well. And I think no better person than him to do that for me. The other biggest takeaway for me, while initially I was a little apprehensive that I would have preferred a one-to-one coaching with him, but because we had a group of 5 people who were coached with him, I think that I think it was very disarming for us. So we were able to share our experiences without being judged. I think that became very easy for us. That everyone is vulnerable. You're not alone in this. If you have a problem, someone else also has the same problem. So I think it became very disarming for us that we all go through our ups and downs. But the bond that built with those 5 people, and with you, of course. I think that is a huge, huge, huge takeaway. I think we've connected with people from different industries today, and all of us have become such close friends, despite, as you said, having not met face to face. But you have Paul today who's joining us from Tokyo, and both of us here in Mumbai. But we have people in London who are there, and we have somebody in Hyderabad who's there, and some other people in Mumbai. So the bond that we have built with each other is probably the next big takeaway. Of course, the coaching that we got from him was great, but the bond that we built with each other was unbelievable. So again, thank you, Gautam. At all credit to you for giving us that platform.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And for me, it's really inspiring to hear your sort of summary of the year, and the journey continues. That's the beauty of it. Your firstly was what I heard was you said help you become a better version of yourself, and then
Right.
being able to share that with your team and raise their leadership qualities of your own organization as well, and then the relationships that are built with the other peers in the group. So if there are organizations like yours thinking about coaching and contemplating, what would your advice be to them?
I think to be able to have an access to a person like Dr. Marshall Goldsmith in this kind of a setting where it is very personal, very customized, and at a cost which you can still manage to afford. So I think it's a uh, it's a no-brainer, so to say. So I would highly recommend people who are thinking about you know taking their vision, their thought process to the next level. This is a great opportunity.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjay. We have a question from Shivani. Many entrepreneurs are faced with a huge amount of work pressure. How do you deal with stress and create a sense of balance as a leader? A great question.
Yeah. So, no, thank you, Shivani, for asking that question. Um, on my business card, I have two sides. So there's a professional side of a business card and a personal side. And I always tell people life is two sides of a business card, and you need to be able to balance both sides. It's like the yin and the yang. So on my professional side is talking about Suburban Diagnostics and my credentials as a professional. But on the backside of the business card, I have my personal aspirations or my hobbies. And you mentioned some of them. Music is a big part of my life. Photography is another big part. Cooking is a big part. So these form, key aspects of how do I balance work and home. But what I've also done over the last 6-8 months, Gautam, is collected all these thoughts and try to share it with people as my own experiences, as my own learnings. And I think that has given me a lot of satisfaction that uh, I'm just trying to share it's experience sharing with people. And I believe people have connected well with that. And it's not something which I've read or, I'm just cut, copy, pasting it, but it's just sharing my own personal experiences. So I guess uh, sharing my experiences has been a way to, also de-stress myself. But the biggest de-stressor for me is my workout. So I have a an hour and 15-minute 20-minute session with my personal trainer 3 days a week. Whenever an opportunity provides, I go for cycling on the weekends. And I think cooking is also a great stress buster. So cooking, music, and workout perhaps would be my personal stress busters as well. So it's a combination of multiple things.
Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Sanjay. I really resonate with that. We need to make sure we prioritize time for ourselves. I've been reading a book which is called "Don't Just Exist, Come Alive," and it highlights the importance of what we call self-love, self-care activities. Whether it's walking, whether it's cooking, whether it's running, jogging, we need to make sure we take care of ourselves to remove the stress or pressures that we go through during our working day. So, thank you for sharing some of your
Yeah,
personal.
I have two lines on that. So I say that you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you need to first fill your cup to be able to pour. So you can't pour from an empty cup. And the second line that I like to use is to look after anything else in life, you have to first look after yourself. If you look after yourself, then you're in the right physical, mental, emotional space to look after anything else that's important to you. So
Absolutely.
a friend of mine gave this line. He says, be selfish to be selfless. If you want to be selfless, first be selfish, then you can be selfless.
Fantastic, fantastic. That's great quotes that you just shared, and absolutely fantastic. We'll take one final question from the audience, and then we'll move to some closing questions from myself. This is from Deepak Patel. Patel, good evening, Dr. Arora. My name is Deepak Patel. We help family-run businesses to the next level. My question is, yours is a service industry. How do you lead and sustain the culture of service and reliability amongst your employees?
That's a great question. I think as we grow as an organization, shared vision and purpose becomes very, very important. So, like I mentioned, I think over communication, making sure that my vision gets percolated down. So we have a very strong training department in house, and it's led by people who have been part of the organization for a long period of time. So I think first is over communicating from the leadership, and then ensuring that collective vision gets percolated down through the training department, through the training. So we have a very, very strong ethos on training, on learning and development. In fact, we have used a digital tool called Darwin Box, which has a very strong learning and development platform built into it. So learning, development, teaching, training, over communication, these are the ways in which you try and percolate your vision. But it's a constant process. I think it's you keep evolving and you keep learning from that, but the basics is that.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjay. We shared at the beginning of this conversation that you and me have never met. It's been a year since we've known each other. We have definitely connected virtually many, many times, to the fact that I
Yes.
definitely feel that we've met. To some extent, I say we have broken bread, as I said, virtually.
Yes.
So what does breaking bread mean to you? I believe you have a copy of my book that I shared with you last year. But
Yes. Yes.
what does
Yes.
breaking bread mean to you?
So first of all, I think I would encourage everyone to read Gautam's book. It's a very lovely, nice, easy read. So I would encourage everyone to do that. Thank you, Gautam, for sharing that with me. Um, my concept of breaking bread actually comes from how I eat lunch at work. So I never eat lunch alone. Uh, Many times, of course, almost always, uh, my wife and I eat lunch together. Uh, but whenever there's an opportunity, I will prefer to have lunch with someone I have never had lunch with in the past. And the opportunity that you get to learn from each other's the dabba that you get, just that. I'll give you one example. So I was having lunch with this young girl who was part of our front office team. And she was a little intimidated initially that she's going to have lunch with me. But then I said, relax. And we started eating lunch. And I realized that her father used to drive an auto rickshaw. And he worked day and night. Uh, and both she and her sister worked with us. In fact, the girl that I'm speaking about actually got married to somebody in the organization and now doesn't work with us, but her elder sister continues to work with us. And I felt so proud that, and I made her feel so proud that your father has worked so hard to give both of you a platform which can take you to the next level. And she had tears in her eyes, and she said that, initially I was very apprehensive of speaking to you over lunch, but today I'm feeling so happy that you made me really realize the importance of what my father is doing for me. And there are so many such incidences that I have over lunch. I'll call somebody who I've never met and I'll ask them what their interest or what their hobby is. In our corporate office, when we had a functional corporate office, every Tuesday I would pick that one person to talk about their interest. So one girl had interest in badminton. So then we would call her and we would ask her to make a 10-minute presentation on badminton. One girl wanted to teach us about how to make dhokla. So she came and gave a 10-minute presentation on dhokla. So there are so many things hidden within people that we just need to pull out. And I think breaking bread with people is the easiest way to, build a conversation. So I prefer never eating lunch at work alone. I prefer to, break bread with someone I've never had a job opportunity with. And that builds that kind of bonding with each person. It just takes the bonding to the next level.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjay. It was reminding me of our journey in Dubai, where I spent 20 years, and we just had a small team of 8 of us. And my dad made it a sort of a system that he said, every day, let's have lunch in the conference room together. And that's a time where we'd watch a short 10-minute video clip together. We may share some insights of what's happening in our personal lives, our favorite hobbies. And then it eventually led to even sharing of food. We had someone bringing Gujarati food, someone Punjabi, someone had Sindhi, and we would all share each other's food. So one is you were eating together with your team. The barriers that are there between senior leadership and maybe team members, the formalities were removed, and you were able to just be yourself, authentic self, and share openly and get to know each other personally and professionally. And it was just a wonderful experience because it added tremendous value to the relationships you build at work. And my dad always says, he said, we spend 70% of our lives at work, if not more. Then we should enjoy the people we spend time with. I mean, so
true, so true. We realize that people wake up at 4:30 in the morning to cook food for themselves and their family. We lead such a blessed life. We've got support at home, but these people get up at 4:30 in the morning to cook food for the family, cook food for themselves, pack their own dabba. Then they come. I think just acknowledging that hard work and effort that they put into it from the leadership makes a big difference to their lives. I think, so small things make such a big difference.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'd just like to at least acknowledge a couple more comments. Thank you for sharing your experience in coaching and mentoring. We have Mr. Kaizad saying you can't pour in from an empty cup. Service culture is a constant and ongoing process. Great learnings. Thank you. And Brigadier Sushil, you said right, invest your time by prioritizing. And lastly, I resonate with Dr. Arora, becoming a better version of yourself. Thank you all for your comments and questions. It's been an absolute pleasure. Before we wrap up, Dr. Sanjay, any closing comments you'd like to share before we wrap up today?
So I'm looking forward to the opportunity where this founding group of that you created on Dr. Goldsmith's platform, Marshall Goldsmith platform, can get together physically, face to face. Maybe in Tokyo, maybe in Mumbai, maybe in Dubai. So that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to. But just as a message, as a healthcare service provider, I would like to, tell people that, don't drop your guard. The pandemic is far from over. Please wear your mask at all times. Step out only if you really, really, really need to, and get vaccinated. I think, that's the only way in which we will end this pandemic, which we will. So, keep your guard up. That's what I'm saying. Don't drop your guard. Very important.
Thank you so much for those very important closing words, Dr. Sanjay. We need to live in awareness. We need to be mindful. We need to stay safe, stay home. Thank you so much once again for your valuable time to share from your wealth of experience. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to staying closely connected. Thank you, Dr. Sanjay.
Look forward. Thank you, Gautam. Thank you. Have a good evening.